and welcome to the Ghana Tv9 News Bulletin for Monday, September 22, 2025. I'm Colin Abrams. In the headlines tonight, construction worker dies at Bachelor's Adventure in workplace accident. Police probing $5 million theft at Elections Commission. Hughes walks, AFC crashes, but party members say fight ain't over. Fatal accident climbs, 88 deaths recorded as traffic volume surges. Tour guide slain in front of crowd at Anai Aboriginal celebration. 2 killed in early morning collision on Suicide Highway. Ghana's envoy urges urgent Security Council reform. Kano intercepts over 140 pounds of cocaine destined for Amsterdam. And Trinbago Night Riders secure 5th CPL title with 3-wicket win over the Ghana Amazon Warriors. Now, for the news in depth. Over 2,000 police officers in Ghana are now trained to respond to domestic violence cases, ensuring victims can access legal remedies such as protection and maintenance orders under the Family Violence Act, highlighting that stamping out this scourge will require the commitment of all, and the police is urging every citizen to speak out, reminding that silence often costs lives. More in this Faith Sandway report.
The Ghana Police Force, in a recent episode of its weekly program, Police and You, addressed the critical issue of domestic violence in its various forms, including physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, and economic. Panelist Superintendent Shalon Daniels reminded that forced sexual acts, even within marriage, are considered rape under the law.
Now, the United Nations defines domestic violence as a pattern of behavior in any relationship used to gain or maintain power and control over the intimate partner. And this is not just reduced only to intimate partner. It includes mother to child, children, siblings, you have aunts, uncles, and so on. It includes physical violence, which deals with hurting or trying to hurt a partner through physical force, such as hitting, slapping, kicking, punching. It looks also at sexual violence. Sexual violence means forcing a partner to take part in sexual activities without their consent, which including rape and other forms of sexual violence. So we're going to look at, when we talk about emotional, it's undermining a person's sense of self-worth.
The Ghana Police Force has put a number of measures in place to support victims of domestic violence and ensure their safety. The serious impact of economic abuse was highlighted, including the withholding of money or misusing household finances as a means to limit a partner's ability to provide for their family, a form of abuse often overlooked. To address this, the police worked closely with the Ministry of Human Services and other partner agencies to provide guidance, counseling, and legal support. Victims can access protection orders, occupational orders, and maintenance for children under the Family Violence Act. With over 2,000 officers trained in handling domestic violence, the force encourages victims to report incidents, assuring them that each case will be taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and supported through the courts.
As we have over 2,000 police would have been trained by the ministry as it relates to handling and dealing with domestic violence and the methods of advice that is there to give out to members of the public. So all we can safely say is encourage persons to utilize those avenues. So if you're at home and you know for sure that money is not being filtered into the home, one way or the other, you will not shut out. There are systems that are in place. You have the Ministry of Human Services. They are the persons that can guide you and advise you further. And there is redress in the courts under the Domestic Violence Act.
Through continuous outreach, sensitization, and media engagement, the Ghana Police Force reaffirmed its commitment to educating communities and enforcing the law. The program concluded with a strong appeal for victims and bystanders alike to speak out, utilizing the systems in place, and remember that help is available. By the start of September this year, 16 women had been killed by their partners. President Dr. Irfan Ali has pledged that his administration will intensify the fight to stamp out domestic violence in Ghana, describing it as a scourge that must be eradicated. Faith Sandy, Guyana TV9 News.
A night of culture and celebration in Anai Region 9 turned into a scene of horror when 21-year-old tour guide John Elliott was brutally stabbed to death in front of stunned revelers during the Amrayman Heritage festivities early Sunday morning. Here's more.
Elliot, a respected guide at Ataloch and resident of Surama village, North Rupununi, collapsed after being stabbed during a violent confrontation involving three men. The incident occurred around 1:30 a.m., shocking villagers and visitors who had gathered for the annual event. Police say the prime suspect is just 16 years old, a school dropout from Anai village. He is accused of driving a knife into Elliot's chest during the altercation. Also wanted in connection with the deadly attack are 20-year-old Ronaldo Williams and his younger brother, 18-year-old Orlando Williams, both of Anai. What makes the killing even more chilling is that a female police officer witnessed the attack. The rank, who was off duty but present at the celebration, told investigators she saw the teenage suspect plunge a knife into Elliot. She later gave a detailed statement and positively identified him. Hours later, police cornered the teen at the Williams brothers' home. He was arrested and taken into the Anai police station. But in a stunning twist, the suspect, questioned in the presence of his mother, denied the crime, pointing fingers instead at 18-year-old Orlando Williams as the one who delivered the fatal blows. By 2 p.m. Sunday, doctors at the Anai District Hospital examined Elliot's body, finding two stab wounds, one to the left chest and another near the right rib. His remains are set to undergo a post-mortem examination on Monday, September 22nd. Meanwhile, police have launched a manhunt for the Williams brothers, who remain on the run. The once joyous Amrinian village celebrations are now overshadowed by the tragedy. As the North Rupununi community reels from the violent loss of a young life, authorities continue to investigate what sparked the deadly confrontation. Adana Dark, Ghana TV9 News.
The Ghana Police Force has launched an investigation into the theft of $5 million from the Ghana Elections Commission, GCON. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham confirmed the probe, stating that the incident reportedly occurred between September 15 and 16. Several GCON employees are currently assisting the police with their investigation. This is a developing story, and more details will be provided as they become available. The Alliance for Change AFC may be reeling from its crushing defeat in the 2025 polls, but one of its senior voices says the party's future still depends on the man who just walked away. AFC National Executive Member Devon Sears declared this weekend that the legacy of Nigel Hughes, who resigned as party leader earlier this month, must guide the AFC's renewal. Faith Sandy has details in this report.
Hughes's resignation tendered recently followed the AFC's disastrous showing at the election. Meanwhile, the national picture was decisively shaped by the ruling People's Progressive Party, Civic (PPPC), which secured a clear victory and a parliamentary majority, returning President Irfan Ali for his second term. Sears defended Hughes's decision to step down, calling it principled rather than cowardly. Globally, leaders often step aside after elections, not out of weakness, but to make way for new energy and leadership. Nigel's choice was a mark of responsibility, not retreat, he explained. Despite the AFC's dismal performance, Sears insisted that Hughes had left the party with one of its most ambitious policy roadmaps in recent memory. He listened to citizens from all walks of life and translated their struggles into a practical plan for prosperity, Sears said. Guyana owes him gratitude and the AFC owes him persistence. Now, with the party at its lowest point in years, Sears says the AFC must embrace the painful process of rebirth. This will not be easy, he admitted, but if we consolidate, return to our principles, and fight in unity, the AFC can once again become a decisive force in Guyana's politics. Hughes' resignation came after he accepted responsibility for the AFC's collapse at the polls. The party scraped just over 3,000 votes nationwide and failed to win a single seat in the National Assembly, a catastrophic low for the party. Party leaders have since scrambled to persuade him to remain temporarily while delegates consider next steps. Hughes' departure may have closed one chapter, but Scheer declared the story is not over. Nigel's journey with the AFC is far from finished. His ideas and advocacy have already shaped the national discourse. It is up to the party and the nation to build on the foundation he laid. End of quote. Faith Sandy, Guyana TV9 News.
Ghana's current representative to the United Nations, Her Excellency Caroline Rodriguez Burkett, speaking on behalf of the Caribbean Community CARICOM, has thrown the bloc's full support behind Africa's common position on UN Security Council reform, delivering remarks at the 7th Summit of the African Union Committee of 10 C10 on reform of the Security Council. Rodriguez Burkett warned that the prolonged deadlock in intergovernmental negotiations has weakened the Council's ability to maintain peace and security, with the unchecked use of the veto standing out as a dangerous example. Ambassador Caroline Rodriguez Burkett, permanent representative of Guyana to the United Nations, speaking on behalf of the Caribbean Community CARICOM, backed the African Union Committee of 10 calls for urgent UN Security Council reform.
Mr. President, at the outset, I reaffirm CARICOM's full support for the African Common Position on Security Council reform as contained in the Esselwini Consensus and the CERT Declaration. I also underscore that the positions of Africa and CARICOM on Security Council reform are almost identical, save on the point of the rotating seat for SIDS across all regions. Excellencies, the reform of the Security Council, though urgent, has become a protracted process with very little progress in the intergovernmental negotiations.
The cost of this ongoing delay, the ambassador noted, is evident in the increasing inability of the Security Council to effectively fulfill its mandate for the maintenance of international peace and security. She added that the exercise of the veto prerogative, for example, without any measures to safeguard civilians who are victims of atrocities, remain one of the most compelling arguments for the early and urgent reform of the Security Council.
Further, the continuing exclusion of whole regions from the permanent category of membership on the Council is another cost of the delay in reforming the Council. Africa and our own region of Latin America and the Caribbean remain the victims of this anomaly. It is particularly perturbing that Africa's exclusion from permanent membership continues, though the agenda of the Security Council is heavily focused on the African region.
The pace of the intergovernmental negotiations, Ambassador Rodriguez Burkett noted, must match the urgency of the need for reforms, and this has been a sore concern over the years. While acknowledging the vision, Ambassador Rodriguez Burkett said, among the membership on the substance of the reform, particularly on the pillars regarding the veto, regional representation, and categories of membership, CARICOM emphasizes that the best way to bridge those divisions is to revitalize the working methods of the IGN.
Take full advantage of the commonalities that exist among us. Let us also prioritize outreach to all stakeholders in the IGN, because dialogue is really the only way through which we can bridge the existing differences.
In June of this year, the 13th ministerial meeting of the African Union Committee of the 10 heads of state and government on the reform of the United Nations Security Council was held, where there was a unified call for urgent and equitable reforms on the United Nations Security Council. Delegates gathered to reaffirm Africa's position and strategize on advancing the quest for fair representation. Colin Abrams, and Tv9 News. 2 persons lost their lives in a violent collision on the Suez-Linden Highway in the early morning hours of Sunday, leaving another hospitalized. The deceased, 23-year-old Sherwin James of Bablissa Village, was killed instantly when his vehicle smashed into a motor lorry driven by 61-year-old Sioran Lachman of Sand Road, Suez-Dyke, East Bank, Demerara. Police report that the crash occurred at around 2 a.m. at Hillfoot. According to Lachman, he was traveling west when he spotted 2 bright lights speeding towards him in his lane. Despite slamming on his brakes and swerving left, the motor car collided with the right front side of his lorry. The impact was fatal for the motor car driver, who died at the scene. The 2 passengers in the car were seriously injured and rushed to the Diamond Regional Hospital for treatment. One of the occupants, identified as Alex, later succumbed. A breathalyzer test conducted on the lorry driver showed no trace of alcohol. Another major drug bust has taken place at the Chaijagan International Airport, where authorities intercepted over 140 pounds of cocaine intended to shipment to Europe. The Minister of Home Affairs commended the officers involved, praising their diligence and dedication. Details of this report. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit over the weekend unearthed another large shipment of cocaine destined for the Netherlands before it was loaded on board a KLM flight at the Chaijagan International Airport. In a statement from the unit, it said acting on information received, Kanu officers conducted an operation which intercepted 53 parcels suspected to be cocaine, which were intended to be placed on a KLM flight destined for Amsterdam. One person was arrested and escorted to the Kanu headquarters, along with the quantity of cocaine. At Kanu HQ, the suspected narcotics were weighed and amounted to 66.8 kilograms or 147.2688 pounds. Minister of Home Affairs Onish Waldron, in a social media post, praised the Kanu officers, adding, "This is about more than an arrest. It's about protecting our borders, safeguarding our people, and defending Ghana's good name on the international stage." Director James Singh, speaking on safeguarding the nation recently, said that traffickers are increasingly using Guyana as a transnational shipping point, moving narcotics from Venezuela through Guyana and onwards to the US and Europe. He noted that traffickers are now contaminating legitimate commercial shipments, an exact tactic uncovered in this recent case.
No longer are persons trying to hide cocaine in wood or in fish, but what they're doing now is contaminating commercial shipments after they would have been scanned, after they would have been checked by law enforcement, and contaminating them at transshipment points, again, after they've left Guyana. We're also seeing them load vessels off the coast. So a vessel comes in, it has legitimate cargo, but then it travels outside of Guyana on our territorial waters and they load narcotics on board. What are we doing? As I mentioned, we're working with our international partners, but we're also using technology.
In a recent press briefing, President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali said his government is conscious of the impact of transnational crime, drug trafficking, and other forms of illicit activities, and it is for this reason that his government is working with its international partners in the fight against narcotics. Guyana
continuously concerned about criminals using international waters or countries' exclusive economic zone in destroying economies, destroying countries, destroying people. For a matter of fact, we have raised an alert about the overflights over Guyana of suspected narco traffickers and drug planes, and their overflight over Guyana. And we have been talking to our partners and to help support us in terms of our air surveillance and tracking system, because we don't want our territory to be used. We don't want our land or sea to be used by any criminal network. So that is of concern to me, and we have a duty and a responsibility to make the necessary investment to secure our borders, to secure our people, and to secure this region, and also to contribute to every effort that will see our region remain a zone of peace.
Colin Abrams, Ghana TV9 News. A construction worker who was killed in a workplace accident earlier today has been identified as Derobius Martinez, a Cuban national residing at Fowles, East Coast, Demerara. The incident occurred at a construction site at Bachelor's Adventure, where a supermarket was being erected. Martinez died when a concrete wall collapsed and crushed him. Following the accident, all construction work at the site has been halted. Minister of Labour and Manpower Planning, Keil Griffith, visited the location as investigations into the incident are ongoing. There has been a significant increase in the incidence of fatal accidents. Ghana has recorded 8 work accidents with 88 lives lost so far this year, compared to 75 accidents and 79 deaths for the same period last year. One contributing factor, according to the police, is the high volume of traffic during peak hours, especially in Georgetown on the west side. Traffic Chief Mahendra Singh warns that while smart city cameras and body-worn devices help catch reckless drivers, public cooperation is crucial to stem the tide of dangerous driving.
Traffic Chief Assistant Commissioner Mahendra Singh, citing comprehensive analysis conducted over the past 2 years, says the police authority has released new statistics which underscores the urgency of addressing rising traffic volumes. He stated that the recent data reveals a significant increase in vehicle flow during peak hours, prompting the authority to implement targeted strategies to manage congestion and ensure commuter safety.
There isn't for you to predict a time or a space of time during the day when there'd be large volumes in those same spaces you mentioned. And why? If you check one series of motor vehicle only finished in 3 months, just in the immediate past, and that only spoke to the P series. What about G for motor lorries and goods transportation? What about B for minibuses? What about the hire cars? So to speak directly to what you were asking us, our posture has been one that has moved significantly from reactive to a greater level of responsiveness from the force aided by technology.
Singh says the force has shifted from a reactive to a more responsive approach, leveraging smart city, CCTV systems, and body-worn cams to monitor traffic violations in real time. But the traffic chief is pushing back against public criticism that police aren't doing enough to address dangerous driving. Singh said the public need to inform the police of their frustrations regarding dangerous overtaking, emphasizing that the force doesn't just dispatch ranks but actively supervise them.
Dangerous driving, careless driving occasion, nothing is still done about it. Shouldn't the public make this known to us? Shouldn't the public communicate it or vent their frustration or anger that there was present a police in that space and this is what happened? And the police did nothing. I mean, it's unfair to the public then. But what have we done recognizing this? We don't only post the ranks. We don't only dispatch the ranks. We visit them. We have subordinate officers in each space checking on them to ensure that they are where they are posted, doing what they ought to be doing. That's one. Two, with the use of the body pack camera, the IT ranks check on it on a steady basis to ensure that the cameras are working or fully functional, so that when the rank is posted between that space of time for as much as 4 to 5 hours, when that rank returns to station, that camera is docked, that camera's footage is checked, it is reviewed to prove that the rank was where they ought to have been. You don't only check for that, you check for the offenses recorded on the very camera, where steps are taken thereafter.
The traffic officials also addressed concerns about repeat offenders with Regional Divisions 4 ACE Superintendent Ron Clark, noting that magistrates have the authority to suspend license for convicted repeat offenders, but convictions must be secured first. Meanwhile, Superintendent Maniram Jagnandan of Regional Division 3 is urging commuters to leave home earlier, noting that travel times have significantly increased due to growing vehicle volumes, particularly along the Damrara Harbour Bridge. Singh concluded with a stark warning about road safety statistics. While fatal accidents saw a recent decline in previous years, this year has seen an uptick to 84 fatal accidents with 88 deaths compared to 75 accidents and 79 deaths at the same period last year.
I tell you this, for 3 years I know the themes for road safety would have been respect the road. There was 148 fatal accidents, 175 deaths. Then my first year as traffic officer, we had road safety is not a slogan, it's a way of life. That led to a significant reduction, 117 fatal accidents and 132 deaths. This year we had to do the right thing, which came from a stakeholder agreement. What do we have? We have an increase. We're operating presently at about 84 fatal accidents with about 88 deaths. Well, last year would have been 75 and 79. Much of the questions to be asked, why, where were we failing? It was not necessarily us, the police, who were failing. Single vehicle collision with medians and infrastructure led to the death of many.
Adana Dork, Ghana TV9 News.
And finally, tonight's newscast. The Trinbago Knight Riders claimed their 5th CPL title in dramatic fashion, edging past the Ghana Amazon Warriors by 3 wickets in the 2025 Caribbean Premier League finale at the Ghana National Stadium, Providence. Chasing a competitive target, TKR held their nerve in a tense finish with veteran power hitting and steady partnerships guiding them over the line. Despite a spirited bowling effort from the Warriors, the Knights' depth and experience shone through on the biggest stage. The packed Providence crowd was treated to an electrifying contest filled with boundaries, breakthroughs, and entertainment drama. But in the end, it was TKR's resilience that secured the crown. With this win, The Tiki reaffirmed their dominance in CPL history, lifting the trophy for a record fifth time and cementing their reputation as the league's most successful franchise. And that's all for tonight's news bulletin. And for our neighbors, thanks for watching. Goodbye.